In your 20s and sometimes your 30s, there's an immense amount of social pressure to prove that you're doing well. Visible wins, public milestones, signs that your life is on track. And the dangerous thing about this pressure is that it doesn't announce itself. It seeps in quietly through your timeline, your feed, through weddings and LinkedIn posts, and someone who went to school with you announcing their third promotion or something. Through those subtle, constant comparisons that social media was architecturally designed to trigger. And slowly, without realizing it, you start making decisions. Not based on what you want, but based on what will look good, what will read well, what will signal to others that you are moving, that you are doing it, that you're not falling behind. That's a dangerous place to build a life from, because when your decisions are driven by an audience, even an imaginary one, you stop being the author of your life and start being the performer of it. And performers eventually get tired, they get burnt out. Like, I know this feeling intimately. There was a season of my life where I was quietly falling apart. I've shared this with you multiple times. My online presence looked fine. I had pivoted from architecture, which I had built a decade on, something I wanted to be since I was like 7 years old. And when I finally walked away from it, there was grief in that. Real grief, quiet grief that I didn't really have a language for yet. But I was still posting. I kept showing up. I kept curating a version of myself that looked like someone who had it together. And the strangest thing happened. The moment I, got to this place, I started performing more in a very weird way, because I was more disconnected even though I was performing. And that was because I was spending energy managing a perception instead of actually figuring out who I was becoming. Then I stopped. It wasn't dramatic, but I pulled back. I went quiet for a while, started building slowly and honestly without telling anyone what I was building. So at some point, I uploaded photos to Pexels. I've talked about this. I didn't announce it. I did it quietly. There was no strategy. It was just creating something and releasing it into the world without waiting for applause. And those photos, without a single post about them, without any performance, reached more people and opened more doors than anything I had loudly announced before. And that taught me something I haven't forgotten till today. The work speaks when you let it. Now, here's what I mean. And what I want you to actually sit with right now. There's an audience you're performing for, and it's not watching. And I'll say that again. The audience you're performing for is not watching. The people you're trying to impress are too caught up in their own performance to be paying attention to the kind of attention you think they are. If that makes any sense. The people you're trying to keep up with are quietly struggling with their own version of this same issue. The people whose validations you're quietly chasing, they are not the ones who will show up when your life gets hard. They are not the ones who will matter in 10 years, and yet you are making decisions for them. You are delaying the quiet, honest, unglamorous work of actually building your life because it doesn't look good enough to post yet. Let me ask you something. What would you be building right now if nobody could see it? What would you pursue if there were no announcements to make, no milestones to post, no perceptions to manage? Because the answer, that quiet answer, slightly would define things for you. It's uncomfortable, but that's the answer. And it usually comes closer to what you actually want to be doing with your life than anything you're currently doing performing. And building quietly doesn't mean building in isolation. It doesn't mean you can't share your journey or celebrate your wins. It doesn't mean going dark or, ghosting the world. It means making the work the point, not the audience's response to the work. It means letting your next step be driven by your values, your visions, your honest assessments of where you are at, not by with this read well as a caption. And I mean well when I say this. It also means being willing to do the thing even when nobody is clapping yet, even when the numbers are small, even when it doesn't look cool from outside. It looks from outside like nothing is happening. Because something is happening. It's just not happening beneath the surface, or it's just happening beneath the surface. And the things beneath the surface that are quietly, slowly growing without performance tend to have the deepest truth. Think about the people you genuinely admire, not the loudest ones, the ones whose work has actually lasted. I'll be willing to bet that a significant portion of their best work was built in seasons that looked completely quiet from the outside. And that is not a coincidence. Depth requires privacy. Growth requires space. And the best work is almost certainly going to come from a place that didn't need an audience to feel real. So here's what I want to leave you with. Resist the urge to perform for an audience that isn't watching. Build quietly. Grow honestly. Make decisions based on who you are actually becoming, not based on how the process looks to people who are barely paying attention. And your life, the actual texture and quality of your life, it should speak louder than your post ever could. So I'll end with this. There's a version of your life that looks incredible from the outside and feels hollow from the inside. And that version looks quiet, maybe even unremarkable from the outside, but it feels full, purposeful, deeply yours. You get to choose which one you build. And most people never realize that is even a choice. But now you do. And I'm hoping that you make the best of it. There's a reason why I openly share my story with you, so that you can see that there were moments that didn't look glamorous and wasn't in the spotlight. And I really hope that gives you hope, but also rewires the way you think. Because in the end, I won't be there to, suffer the consequences of a half-baked life based on other people's perceptions. And I really hope that you don't choose a path that you look back on and regret, doing it differently. So having these kind of conversations get me emotional sometimes. But the beauty of it all is I'm here anytime you need this kind of conversations. So, as I always do, feel free to reach out if you're struggling with anything. And if you're ever stuck, if you ever feel like you need a reworking of your life, get in touch and I'll be happy to help you out with the little words I have. I'm glad you stayed and you listened and you understand. I hope you understand. And I'll be in touch.